this week's dynamic practice. Thank you for being a subscriber. This week's practice I'm calling Rooting to Lift. And to start, grab your mat and find some wall space, since we'll be using the wall in a few different ways for the practice today. And in addition to the wall space, also have a block at the ready. So I hope you're well. So Rooting to Lift, I'm basing this off of a Yoga Sutra. It's probably one of the most often sort of quoted, used sutras, 246, Sthira asanam, and that's Sanskrit for there is stability and ease in every posture. And so we'll be working with stability, particularly along the inseam of our legs, and working with our feet to create some inner space within. So actually a really good analogy, Krista and I are watching a bird build a nest on our porch. And it's sort of like a nest is a really good analogy. It's like a stable place for some chicks to relax within. So, but yeah, so it's a lot of stability, heat building practice today. And so let's start. We're going to start actually standing. So come up to a somewhat wide-legged stance. If you're familiar with Tai Chi, this is very similar to a horse stance. Feet comfortably wide, and we're going to start with your knees bent. And relax your face, drive your feet down. Hands, you can relax hands on hips if you'd like, or just hands out front. Soften your shoulders, but we're going to focus on the Sthira, the strength of our legs and our footfall. So from here, guide your awareness, your mind's eye down to your feet, and press both feet down equally into the floor. And as best you can, see that there's equal amount of weight between your feet. Start breathing more deeply, because you're going to need it. Bend your knees, lower your hips just like another ½ inch. Press both feet straight down through the floor. And then from here, you're going to guide your weight more into your right foot. So you shift to the right and feel your right leg working harder. And the more your right leg works, the softer your upper body and your face get. So you're rooting down to relax and blossom upward. So 2 more breaths over here on your right side. And then from here you come back to center. Notice the after effects of using one leg more than the other. Take a deep inhale and exhale here. And then from here, now we'll shift to our left leg. So we favor your left leg, drive your left foot in through the floor, and the more you use your left leg, the lighter your upper body gets. So you can feel the warmth, feel the flames coming through the legs as we wake our legs up. So several more breaths here. All right, one more breath on the left leg, and then exhale from there, come to center. Equal standing between legs, lower your hips another inch. And from here, keep your legs doing what they're doing. Interlace your fingers and press your palms skyward. And so we can notice that this sort of, in like one sense it's a dichotomy, but in another sense, these work together. The more you drive your feet down, the more you lift your palms up. Float the toes a little bit. And feel the rooting of your heels into the ground. Heels stay rooted. Also press big toe, little toe mounds into the floor. And we're almost done. Last lap around the track. So heels root, big toe, little toe mounds root. You can feel both your outside feet and your inside feet represented on the floor. 3 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale, breath in, big exhale, and one last time, breath in. Okay, drive your feet through the floor even more, straighten your legs, press your palms up, huge inhale here, and exhale from there, release. All right, great, and let's come to seated. And we'll take a right shin in front of left, cross-legged seat. If you need to elevate yourself, go ahead. I'm looking for a stretch on the outside hips. You can either stay upright, can lean forward a little bit, or if it's in your practice and it's okay for your knees, you reach a little further forward. All right, so as you're reaching forward, breathe back. And so our first practice really kind of lit some flames in the body. So notice those flames. The first practice really highlighted stability. This practice can highlight some good space at the start of our practice today. Just kind of notice the stretchings in your hips, in your knees, around thighs. And then as you inhale, make your way back up. You can lean back a little bit, switch the lacing of your legs. Okay. And then from here, sitting bones slide back. Take a deep breath in, sukhasana, other side. Kind of tilt forward a tiny bit, hands to hips, hands to knees. Or if it's in your practice, you can start sliding forward, round your back if you'd like, and enjoy some of the good space you're creating. You can breathe into your low back. And several breaths here. All right. Very good. And you can make your way back up. And release from Sukhasana, extend your legs forward on your mat. And this is where we're going to start using the block. So we're going to take the block not in between our knees, but a little bit higher. So they're not on the inner condyles of the knees, it's actually like thigh, like mid-thigh. And the block is going to sort of train your legs to squeeze inward. Okay, so part of stability is the ability to engage without moving. Right, so my legs are in this position. There's not a lot of stability because I'm not activating them. If I take a block here and I can sort of imagine or actually squeeze the block, now my legs are still not moving, but there's more engagement and therefore more stability. And this is the next pose here. All right. So from here, you're going to squeeze your block. Outer thighs squeeze toward inner thighs, outer hips squeeze toward inner hips. Okay. You can bend your knees a little bit. If it feels like you're kind of falling back, we talked about this in the Q&A last week. So you can arch your back here a little, lift your lungs, kind of like sprout your lungs, sprout your upper body, squeeze the block, and then from here, drive your heels out as you squeeze your block. So Dandasana, staff pose, we'll be using this form several times. 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Take a big exhale, and then take a deep breath in. All right, very good. So from here, we'll sort of flip this almost upside down into downward facing dog. You're gonna keep the block between your thighs. And so the wall is here. If you can get your heels to the floor, that's fine, great, you can do that. But if you can't get your heels down to the floor, take your heels to your wall. And so now you can squeeze the block and drive your heels into something, okay? For those who are more flexible in your ankles, you're pressing your heels down into the floor. But if that's not available, if you're hovering, you can get this sense of stability and grounding by pressing your heels into the wall, okay? And if you've never done this before, even if you are flexible, I encourage you to try this. Tendency is to lock out knees. Bend your knees a tiny bit as you drive your heels back. And there's several breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale. Deep breath in. Exhale, squeezing block, outer thigh toward inner thigh, outer hips inward. Take a deep breath in. All right, we're gonna keep the block in between our thighs, come into a plank pose, and you might have to scoot your heels back a little bit because we're driving our heels into the wall, squeezing our blocks, and it's almost like if you're a tube of toothpaste, sort of squeeze the bottom of the tube, the top opens up, right? So lungs forward, head relaxed. I know I'm comparing our head to toothpaste, but imagine the toothpaste sort of squeezing, relaxing out of the tube. Drive your heels back, lungs forward, drive your hands through the floor, just like we drove our feet through the floor in our horse stance at the top of the practice. And 2 more breaths. Take a big inhale, big exhale. And one last time, take a deep breath in. Okay, great. And then you can take your knees down. All right, let's come up to the top of the mat. So block goes right back in. So with the block in between the legs, you might not have as much choice as to where to put your feet. Just listen to your knees, right? Obviously this would hurt the knees, at least it would hurt my knees if I tried to bring my feet together. So have your feet honor your knees. So you drive your feet through the floor. Any stance is fine. Squeeze the block, outer thighs toward inner thighs, and all this sort of driving down and inward helps open up the canopy of our body. So top the lungs, widen, face relaxes. And there's 2 more breaths here in Tadasana. We'll be doing a couple of sun salutations with the block. So we'll do it a couple times because it could feel a little bit awkward to have a block in between your legs, but I think it'll be helpful. So take a deep inhale. Big exhale. And so sun salutation A, as you inhale, you're going to reach up toward the ceiling, take a deep breath in, drive your feet down to lift your fingers up. And you can bend your knees a little bit and send the block back and up as you forward fold into Uttanasana. Bend your knees as much as you need to. Okay? And then inhale, you look a couple feet in front of you. You're going to place your hands on the floor, and this might feel a little bit awkward, but you're going to sort of tiptoe back or jump back into our plank. Send your leg back. Or if you want to tiptoe back, you can do that. Okay? Feet do not have to be on the walls for the sun salutation, but it's like you're pressing into the wall. Drive your heel back, lungs forward, deep breath in, and then exhale, let's lower down. You're squeezing the block the whole way, tops of feet on the floor. Now you're going to press your feet into the floor, lift up into cobra or upward facing dog, squeeze the block, lungs blossom forward, and then you curl your toes under again, and lift your block and your hips back into downward facing dog. All right, so squeezing the block the whole time. 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale, and deep breath in. Okay, and then with the block, you're actually going to either tiptoe forward or jump forward. So that's me tiptoeing. And then from here, come just part way up. Lengthen, squeeze the block back, lungs forward. You see this is the shape of Dandasana again. So deep breath in, exhale, you refold. And then drive your feet down, reach your arms up. Take a huge inhale here. And exhale, palms come through heart center and by your sides. And let's do a sun salutation A again. Inhale, arms sweep up by driving your feet down. Squeeze your block, exhale, forward fold. Make sure your knees are buoyant, they're not locked. Squeeze the block as you look forward a bit. Deep inhale. Exhale, you can jump back into plank or tiptoe back into plank. Okay, we'll pause here for a breath or 2, squeezing your block, driving your heels back as your lungs go forward. Press your hands through the floor, take a deep breath in, and then exhale, you're lowering halfway down or all the way down. Tops of feet on the floor. Inhale, you lift up into cobra or upward facing dog. Squeeze the block to open your lungs. And then exhale, lift your sitting bones in the block back, squeezing the whole time. So you drive your heels back and down, squeeze the block, lift your sitting bones up. So legs are working a lot harder perhaps than typical. And all that is in the service of stability. Take a deep breath in. Okay, and exhale, you bend your knees, step or hop up toward the front of your mat. You're in Uttanasana, you squeeze the block, come up part way, lengthen, squeeze the block back, lungs go forward, and then exhale, you can re-round. And then drive your feet through the floor to lift your arms up, huge inhale here. And exhale, palms through heart center and by your sides. Okay, so remove the block, we're gonna do one more sun salutation. So, feet have a couple more options here. Do something that feels intuitive. And before we start our sun salutation, so the block's been in there long enough that you can sort of feel where it was. So squeeze into the phantom of the block. So that's what I'll call it. I'll say squeeze into your phantom block. And what that does is engage your legs in a way that doesn't really move them. That increases our stability in our legs. Okay? So 2 more breaths in mountain pose, Tadasana. You're squeezing your phantom block. Drive your feet down. So the keys are in the ignition all over the place. Legs, feet, hips. And then let's reach your arms up overhead. Take a huge inhale here. Deep breath in. And then exhale, bend your knees. Squeeze your phantom block as you forward fold. Come up part way. Inhale. Send your phantom block back. Lengthen your lungs forward. And then exhale into Uttanasana. Forward fold. Squeeze your phantom block. Plant your hands. And you're going to step back or jump back into plank. Squeezing your phantom block. Drive your heels back and lengthen your lungs forward. 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Take a big exhale. Take a deep breath in. And you're squeezing your block as you lower all the way down, or halfway down. Tops of feet on the floor. Squeeze your block and peel your lungs forward and up. And you're going to squeeze your phantom block all the way back into downward facing dog. All right, squeeze your block. Drive your heels back. Lengthen your spine. And 3 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Big exhale. Deep breath in. Big exhale. And one last time. Breathe in. All right, and then bend your knees a little bit. Squeeze your block as you step or jump up into an Uttanasana. Inhale, squeeze your block as you look forward. Block back, lungs forward. Exhale, re-round, Uttanasana. And squeeze your block, drive your feet through the floor as your arms sweep up overhead. Huge inhale here. And exhale, palms come through heart center. Back into Tadasana. All right. Great, so with your feet driving down, squeeze your phantom block. Hopefully there's some warmth throughout the whole body. Engaging that long might cause your legs to shake a little bit. It does for me. But notice that all that work is in the service of stabilizing. Okay, great. So the next pose, triangle pose. You're going to take your right foot to the top of the mat. Your left foot's your back foot. I'd like you to take your back heel into where the wall meets the floor. So, and the heel can be into the wall. Toes just come a little bit away from the wall. That's a bit of internal rotation. Actually helps provide stability to your back hip. And then from here, before we get into triangle, I'd like you to drive that back heel into the floor and straight down. Now, you can think about this. There's a phantom block in your back leg. Can you squeeze that phantom block? Okay, this is your left thigh. I'm going to place my block here so you can sort of visualize that. All right, but you're going to press your heel down and you squeeze into the phantom block, and that tends to take your hips back a little bit, so it engages your adductors. And there's the impetus for getting into triangle. So you squeeze the phantom block in the back. Bottom hand can come down onto the block or onto your shin or onto the floor, but don't worry about going too far down. Okay? You're going to squeeze your back leg and then roll your belly up, arm up toward the ceiling. And use the power of your back leg to kind of open your lungs forward and up. Eyes can be wherever. I happen to look up, but you can look down for balance assist. All right. So you're squeezing the phantom block of your back leg. Drive your back heel into where the wall meets the floor. And there's 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale. And one last time, breathe in. Okay, great. And then from there, you come back out of that. And exhale, step up out of that. Okay, and then change to the other side. Okay, I'm gonna demonstrate this 90 degrees so you can still see my back leg. But you're switching sides. So your right heel is where the wall meets the floor. Okay, left toes point forward somewhere. And then visualize, you drive the heel into where the wall meets the floor. The block is on the inside of our back leg, our phantom block. Okay, so you can visualize that, feel where the block was, and what would it take to squeeze your block? So that's adductor work, the adductors, inside leg work. So you're going to squeeze it, and that's really the impetus for sort of tilting the hips into triangle. So you squeeze your phantom block, hand goes down wherever it goes. Going down isn't the point of this pose. It's really that back leg squeezing so you can roll up. So you drive your back heel into where the wall meets the floor, squeeze your phantom block, and then roll your belly up toward the ceiling. And notice the power of your back leg, this additional stability, gives you like options and lift and sort of blossoming your torso open so you can breathe into it and enjoy the space of your torso. And twice more, breathe in. Okay, great. And please take your hand to hip. Inhale, drive your heel down to lift. All right, and then you step up to the top of your mat. You can take a Tadasana for a moment. Squeeze your phantom block. And so part of this is musculature, of course, but this phantom block is also neurological. So can you create what I would call a good habit in Tadasana? So repetition is the key for building good habits. So you squeeze outer thighs toward inner thighs, outer hips toward inner hips, and drive your feet down to lift. All right. Great. Okay. Similar pose, not the same, but similar, half moon. So I'm going to demonstrate with back foot against the wall. If you have any balance concerns, I'd encourage you to take, so I happen to be in a corner here, so I also have a wall behind me. You can also just take your back against the wall. And since I'm in an inside corner, I can use 2 walls at the same time. Okay? But if you're concerned about your balance, use a wall. I prefer you to not fall over and to pretend to press into a wall than to actually press into a wall and fall over. Okay? But regardless, you can use the wall in this way. You're going to bend your front leg, block to the floor, and now your left heel goes up to the wall. Okay? And if it's not on the wall, imagine it. Okay? So you drive your foot into the wall. Okay? And from here, take mind's eye into your back leg again, back inner thigh. And without moving your leg, you're going to attempt to sort of press your thigh into the block. Now, if that were movement, you would press down like this. But we're not talking about movement, we're talking about engagement, activation. So without the leg moving, pressing into the block, for me at least, it helps the turning of your belly up toward the ceiling. So it's almost like you press your back thigh down, roll your belly up. And again, like that tube of toothpaste, I keep on coming back to that analogy. Every time I do this work, you sort of squeeze one end of the toothpaste, and the other end of the toothpaste tube sort of blossoms open with some toothpaste. So open up the top of your body, breathe into lungs, and 2 more breaths here. All Okay, very good. You can look down for your balance assist. Come up. Take a breath in Tadasana, mountain pose. Squeeze your phantom block. Drive your feet down. Open your heart center up. All right, let's try that on the other side, please. So you can switch sides. All right, back leg now drives into the wall. Okay, hand down onto the block. Of course, if you're feeling out of balance, go ahead and use whatever prop, the wall however you like. All right, so you're gonna drive your back heel into the wall. So a lot of stability in your back leg. All right, and then from here, mind's eye to where the block was in your back leg, and you're gonna energetically squeeze into the block. And rather than take your leg down, which is what the adductors, that's how adductors move. But if you can engage without movement, it really kind of harnesses pelvic floor and hips and can help turn the skin below the navel up a little bit. So there's a lot of stability in our hips, even though this is a pretty dynamic pose. Femurs are going in pretty different directions. So you squeeze into your phantom block, roll your belly up. Again, eyes can be wherever you'd like. And breathe. So as you're squeezing in your lower body, that's the stability, that's your Sthira. Notice the good space that's offering in your torso. And breathe into it. 2 more breaths. Inhale. Big exhale. And one last time, breathe in. And big exhale. Okay, and you can look at the floor for a balance assist. Come up from there into Tadasana. All right, and again, so repetition is key. Squeeze into your phantom block, outer thighs toward inner thighs, outer hips inward, and drive your feet down to lift. So rooting to lift. Deep breath in, and exhale. Great. Okay, another iteration, another way you can use this phantom block is with tree pose. So in this particular instance, I'm more concerned with form than with balance. So if you have any balance concerns in tree, what I would suggest today, we're gonna start on our right foot, standing on right foot. Left foot's gonna come up the leg. If it's available, you take your foot where the inner block, where your block was, the phantom block. So if that's not available, foot anywhere except directly into your knee joint, and you can still imagine where the phantom block is, right, and squeeze. But if you're able to, foot comes into inner thigh. I take my knee to the wall because we're going to be here a while. Okay, and this way you can work on one leg driving down, and if you can bring your foot up to the thigh, the foot is now where your block was, and so you can press your foot into your leg. Also press your leg into your foot. So there's this collection from the outside in, and that's your stability in your tree pose. Okay, so you're driving your foot down. Here's my conception of tree pose. I think a lot of teachers teach like this is our tree and we're all like one big, like we're a trunk, right? And the ground is on the floor. I conceive of tree pose as here's my tree, here's my trunk, here is ground level. So everything from the hips down is actually your roots. So hopefully that's a helpful analogy, but you're going to drive your feet down like you're trying to grow roots toward bedrock, and that helps elevate your trunk. And we're doing this for another few breaths. Hands, I don't care where they are, anything you want to do, yogi's choice on arms, but press your foot into leg, leg into foot, and imagine that the ground level is right at your waist. Root down, and then you lift. Take a deep breath in, big exhale, and then from there, drive your foot through the floor, both feet down. Notice the after effects. Squeeze phantom block, squeeze outer hips inward, and grow down through bedrock. All right, and other side, Trikonasana. Vrkshasna, tree pose on the other side. Okay, so the foot anywhere on the leg, and the two options are to either imagine your phantom block, like if your foot's here somewhere, you can either imagine your phantom block, or if your foot's in your inner thigh, that's where the phantom block was. So you press your foot into your leg, leg into foot. Knee against the wall. Doesn't have to be straight out, just whatever feels comfortable. And what this does is take the balance, most of the balance out of the equation, so we can focus on the form and the engagement, the stabilizing. So you press foot into leg, leg into foot, the phantom block engagement squeezing inward. And then again, imagine that you are, your waist up to your head is in the air, and waist below is in the ground. So it's not like the whole pose is lifting. Or actually, so it's like equal in opposite directions. So as you squeeze, you root down, and that active rooting, the deeper the roots go, the higher the canopy can be. So the more you press down, the more you lift, and breathe in your canopy several times. Hands can be on hips, Anjali Mudra, arms out to the side might be a bit hard with the wall, or arms overhead. Whatever you're doing with your arms, mind's eye into your legs and grow your roots down to lengthen your trunk and your canopy. 3 more breaths. Take a big inhale, big exhale, breath in, big exhale, and one last time. Breathe in. Okay, great. And then from there you release. Feet onto the floor, squeeze phantom block, outer thighs toward inner thighs, outer hips toward inner hips. Very nice. All right, and then you can turn out to the side for a standing, wide-legged forward fold. Bend the knees a little bit, drive your feet down, and then you're going to lift your sitting bones up and take your hands to the floor. All right, so this is a wider stance than we've done in most of our practice. So, of course, there's no sort of block this shape, like a trapezoid shaped block. That's not really a thing. But there's still the phantom block there, and you drive your feet through the floor without rolling onto the inside of your feet. You still pin your outer heel down like we did in triangle. So you pin your outer heels down, but then from here, you squeeze the phantom block. And it's almost like you're trying to bunch up your mat. Okay? Or another analogy, like imagine you were standing on ice, like a slippery surface, and you're trying to not go into a split. So you're squeezing inward while not collapsing inward. Outer heels down, squeeze inward, and then from there, tilt your sitting bones up toward the ceiling. So especially in this pose, because this is a big stretch for a lot of people, usually when people get stretches, they start to let go and let the stretch do more of the work. In this one, I encourage you to stay firm in your legs, quads engaged, kneecaps drawn in, squeeze inward. Even if it means you don't go as far, you're still getting a stretch. And for me, that's actually one definition of stability, like to not go too far. So if this inhibits you from your maximum forward fold, that's an indication of stability. Okay, so 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale, breath in, big exhale, and now we're going to take upper body into plank. So we're still in our wide-legged forward fold. Okay, but you see how my upper body is more or less horizontal. Okay. I would probably come up into my fingertips like that. But from here, the phantom block and your hips go back as your lungs blossom forward. Okay? Now drive your feet through the floor. Try to bunch up your mat. And you're going to take your left hand underneath your heart, right arm out to side. Inhale here and exhale, twist up toward the ceiling. Now your hips are prone to go with this. So as you're rolling your heart to the right and up, engage your right phantom block. This is your right inner thigh. Squeeze it inward, and that should keep your hips in place a little more. So as your belly's rolling to the right, and your heart's opening to the right, your right thigh squeezes inward. And breathe. 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale. Breathe out. Take a deep breath in. Okay, great. And then replace one hand with your other hand. Inhale, lengthen through your lungs. Left arm out to left. Exhale, roll your belly up toward the ceiling. Okay. And again, on this side, just to demonstrate, when people's upper bodies go, their hips tend to want to go with. Okay. So you can use the power of the phantom block in your left leg. Squeeze your phantom block, bring your hips back to center, and then roll your upper body instead. So the more you roll your belly and your heart to the left, the more your left thigh sort of squeezes inward for stability in your hips. And there's 2-3 more breaths here. All right, one last time here. Okay, great. Hands down, bend your knees. There's still collection here, still squeezing your phantom block. Drive your feet down to lift your lungs up. Arms sweep up overhead. Take a huge inhale here. And exhale, palms come through heart center. You can heel toe yourself a little closer together. All right, relax your eyes open or closed. Phantom block squeezes. Outer thighs in toward inner thighs. Outer hips toward inner hips. And blossom your lungs up. All right, and so you're going to reach your arms up overhead. And a deep inhale here. Squeeze your phantom block. And let's sit down into chair pose, Vrkshasna. Okay, so you see I have my feet somewhere around hip distance apart. You don't have to, but here you can squeeze your legs into the phantom block without necessarily pinning your knees together. This is actually, I don't know, I consider this advanced. Can you get your adductors to work without moving? So you're squeezing your phantom block. Drive your feet down to lift your lungs up. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, if it's okay in your knees, you sit down lower. Squeezing phantom block. Lift your lungs. And 3 or 4 more breaths here. So inhale here, root down with your legs to lift your lungs. As your legs work harder, your face more sukham, more good space in the face. Yeah. And one last time here. Take a deep breath in. Exhale, squeeze the block, drive your feet down and come up. All right, great. And let's take downward facing dog again. So you can take your hands to the floor, heels back, squeeze your block, lift your phantom block up. And there's 3 more breaths here. Big inhale, exhale, breath in, exhale, and one last breath in. Okay, great. So bend your knees. Take your knees fairly wide, and I know it's hard to believe, but we get a chance to relax our legs a little bit. So you take child's pose. Allow your legs to soften down. And enjoy some of the good space we've cultivated in our trunk, in our torso. Okay, great. And then you can make your way up to seated. And so now we're going to turn around. We're going to use the wall in a couple different ways in our seated practice. Grab your block again, just one last reappearance of the block between your inner thighs. And you're going to squeeze the block in between thighs. Drive your feet into the wall, both feet into the wall, squeeze the block, and it's like you're trying to send the sitting bones back in space without locking out your knees. So there's a tiny micro bend in knees. Drive your heels into the wall, slide your sitting bones back, and that's probably about as much as we can do with our thighs. So hands can be by your sides or arms up overhead if you want to try that. Okay, but here's a Dandasana. So what mountain pose is to standing postures, this pose, Dandasana, is to most of our seated postures. So it's always a good reference point, and in this practice, it's a great way to squeeze an actual block, or from here on out, a phantom block. Take a deep breath in, and exhale. All right, release. Take the block out of the way. And you're gonna keep your right foot into the wall, left foot either on the leg somewhere, either on the shin, or just like we did in tree pose, you can take your foot to the inner thigh. Okay? If that doesn't work for the knee, don't worry about it. We all have our phantom block. Like for now and forever, we have a phantom block. But I'll demonstrate with foot into inner thigh. You're gonna drive your foot into leg, also drive leg into foot. All right. And you drive the foot that's on the wall, right foot that's on the wall, drive it into the wall. Inhale, arch your back. Roll your belly to the right a little bit. And then from there, hand to thigh, shin. You can hold your foot if you'd like. The more one tends to go forward, the less one wants to squeeze, right? So don't be overly concerned about how far you can go. Can you keep this stability in your legs as you're folding? That's actually the real question, is can you keep all this activity in your legs? Drive your heel into the wall. Phantom block, leg presses into foot, foot presses into leg. And breathe. And all of this squeezing in our legs tends, from here, it encourages a loosening and opening up in our lung space, in our shoulders, our face. And do that once more. Take a deep breath in, and a big exhale. Okay, and then come up. You're going to take both feet to the wall. Okay. From here, squeeze your phantom block. That doesn't necessarily mean legs are together, but you're squeezing phantom block. Yogi's choice on arms, and just a breath here. Take a deep breath in, big exhale. Okay, keep your left leg where it is. Right foot comes into inner thigh. Okay, if you can't come into inner thigh, that's fine. Shin. From here, you're going to arch your back a little. Roll your belly to the left, and then from here start folding down your left while keeping all of these cues that we've been fostering in our system. So the heels into baseboard, leg into foot, foot into leg, a lot of activity in our leg to help open our upper body. And hands can be on thigh, shin, foot. And yeah, so don't be overly concerned about how far you go. In general, the further people go into a stretch, the more they have to relax to get into it. Nothing wrong with that. I'm a big fan of those practices, the yin style. But on this one, to keep the stability, that's our intention today. So foot into leg, leg into foot, root, squeeze your hips inward, toward midline, and one more breath here. Take an inhale, exhale. Great, and then keep that engagement as you lift up. So bright canopy, you come out of that, both legs into wall, into Dandasana. Drive your heels into the wall, squeeze your phantom block, and relax and blossom your lungs upward. Take a deep breath in. Okay. Great, so right foot stays on the wall. Left foot this time, we're going to take left foot on the ground. So this is Vrkshasna A. And so from here, your left hip might be up a little bit. That's fine. And my right hand's on the ground so I don't fall over. But from here, you're gonna reach your left hand forward, down the leg somewhere, okay? And wherever on the leg is fine, but from here, you drive your left foot into the floor, and now your arm is very close to where your phantom block is, and you're gonna squeeze your left leg into your arm now, okay? So you keep that engagement. From here, if you're available, you can use your right hand as a kickstand, or if it's available, you take both hands to your leg, and you can forward fold as much as you'd like, okay? Now, all the cues remain in your straight leg. Phantom block, engage, heel presses in. Right leg is nice and strong as well. Here, the left leg can also squeeze in, and there's a lot of collection here. And the more your legs do, my hope is that it feels like the more you can do with your upper body, because your legs are providing the stability. So 2 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale, breath in, big exhale. All right, and then come back up and extend both legs into Dandasana. Drive your heels into wall. Sitting bones slide back. Squeeze your phantom block. Take a deep breath in. All right, and we're gonna keep our left leg doing what it's doing. Right foot to the floor. And you're gonna take your right hand to the inside of your leg. Okay? Now, if you feel like you're falling over, just use your left hand as a kickstand the whole time. But from here, we already know what to do with our left leg, yeah? So we can focus on our bent knee. Draw that knee into our outer arm, okay? The outside arm. So you're squeezing with your right thigh. And then from here, if it's available, you reach one hand forward. If it's available, you reach both hands forward. And as you're folding forward, the tendency is to want to pull forward and let everything go. So we're not doing that, at least for this practice. You're going to squeeze everything on the straight leg. You know how to do that. Heel into wall, foot into wall, inner thigh working, quad working, bent knee, leg, you're squeezing in as well. So there's this big collection towards your hips, and that gives you some sukha, some good space in your torso. And there's 3 more breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale, big inhale, big exhale, and one last breath in, and exhale. All right, and then inhale, make your way back up. Again, it's a good reference point. Dandasana, squeeze your phantom blocks, drive your heel forward, lengthen up through your lungs. And there's 2 breaths here. Take a big inhale, big exhale. And breath in, drive both feet through the wall. Okay, great. So this is Dandasana. You see the shape is sort of like a capital L shaped. We're just going to turn that on our back. And we're going to lie on the floor. So this is option number 1 of 2 things that I'll do for this practice. It's basically a supine handstand, where you can take your hands to the wall. Your wrists don't have to be on the wall. Just like we did in our wide-legged forward fold, you can spider your fingers like that, so just fingerprints. So that will be our sort of handstand practice today. And then from here, I think I said we were done with the block, but one more thing. I guess you can use a phantom block if you'd like. We've done that enough too. But you're going to take your block between your thighs, hands into the wall, and you're going to take either A, this is a sort of like a supine chair pose, and you squeeze the block, or if it's available, supine dandasana, supta dandasana, and you drive your heels up toward the ceiling without locking out the knees, slight bend of knees, and you're going to squeeze the block. Now if you can't get it straight up and down, here's fine, like anywhere is fine. All right? But you're using a lot of leg work and you're using a lot of arm work to lengthen the front side of your spine and to breathe a lot. So huge inhale, big exhale, and 5 or 6 more breaths here. counter pose to this, hands next to hips, feet flat on the floor. Squeeze your block or squeeze your phantom block up into bridge pose. Now, the block is telling your legs how far to be apart, so your feet can be anywhere you want. So just make sure this is okay for your knees to be able to squeeze the block as you lift your hips up. And 3 more breaths here. Take a deep breath in. Big exhale. Breath in. Big exhale. And one last time, breath in. Okay, great, and then lower down. Okay, so if headstand is not in your practice, just do this again. You're gonna take your hands to the wall, drive your hands into the wall, drive your feet up toward the ceiling, or you can take chair pose and you're squeezing the block, okay? And then your counter pose is gonna be bridge again, right? So you just repeat those 2 over again. I'm gonna demonstrate a headstand. You see I kept my block. Keep my block in between my legs. So if this is, if headstand is part of your practice, your neck feels okay today, you're going to take forearms to the floor, come up into sort of a dolphin, and then from there, squeeze the block, and you're squeezing the block up. So if this is a bad idea, you are on the floor, lying on your back, either in the supine chair pose or the supine staff pose. And your arms are pressing into the wall, your heels are up toward the ceiling. If you're in headstand, you're driving your forearms into the floor, squeeze the block and lift your block up toward the ceiling. So my hope is the arms and legs are doing a fair amount of work. This allows some freedom and some ease in our breathing. There's 2 or 3 more breaths here. And everyone's squeezing either a real block or a phantom block. Okay, so if you're lying on your back, place your feet on the floor and lift up into bridge pose. If you're in headstand, you can bend your knees, take your toes down, remove the block, and take child's pose again. So everyone's either in a bridge pose, breathing into belly, or in child's pose, breathing into belly. Great. And then from here, come back up to seated. This will be a wide-legged forward fold. So the huff and puff and the stability portion of this is sort of over. And because of all that stability, we now get a chance to release and relax into some good space. So we've been doing a lot of work in our inner legs, not a lot of stretch. I'd like to remedy that. So wide-legged seated forward fold. How wide your legs are, yogi's choice. You can listen to your legs, listen to your hips. If you want a little bit more stretch, I usually take one hand in front, one hand in back, and scoot my hips forward. Okay. And your hands can be behind you, and just like bridge pose, you can kind of arch your back a little bit and blossom the canopy up toward the ceiling. All right. And if this gives you a good stretch down your legs, you stay here. We'll be here for about a minute and a half. And we have been working on our legs at like 100% effort. We've been doing a lot in the past hour. So from here, I invite you to find those stabilizing cues. You can gently press your heels out, try to find your adductors, but at a much lower level. So if we've been working at 100% up until now, I encourage you to find that stability in your legs at like a 15% or like a 12% effort. So almost like an order of magnitude less, almost. heels can press out. If you tend to lock out your knees, add a little micro bend, and you might be able to feel your heels press into the floor a little. That'll get your hamstrings active. And then at 15 or 12% effort, it's like you're trying to gather your legs back together. They're not going to go anywhere though, because they're engaged, but they're not moving. And yeah, shoulder blades squeeze in, lift your lungs. And enjoy the space in the canopy of our lungs. All right. Very good. So from here, you can lean back a little bit, gather your legs, and we'll take the soles of our feet together. How close your feet come, listen to your knees on that one, listen to your hips on that one. They don't have to be any specific distance. But as tight as you want to bring your feet in, that's great. You can hold your hold your feet, ankles, shins, however that works for you. From here, the tendency is to round, so as best you can, arch your back a little bit and keep your lungs blossoming. The canopy of the lungs lifting up. And then from here, gently, again, at like a 15, 12, 10% effort, knees are like magnetized toward the floor. And as your knees gently press down, my hope is there's this sense of a little extra lift through your low back, kidneys, lungs. And with this little bit of stability in our legs, see if we can enjoy the space in our torso. Okay. Very good. And then from here, you can lean back a little bit, gather your legs, release from there. And so the next practice, you can use it if you have a bolster. Go ahead and use the bolster, but I'll demonstrate with the block. This is Viparita Karani. This is legs of the wall. Get my tea out of the way. So I usually lie on my side and try to get my sitting bones as close to the wall as I can. And then I lift my legs up on the wall. Okay, so at this point, my sitting bones are pretty close to the wall. From here, I'll take the block. I'm going to demonstrate at the lowest level. But if you want to go to the medium level, I think that might work for some people. And ultimately, if the block doesn't work, it doesn't work. You can do this with your sacrum on the floor. All right. As with the rest of this practice, yogi's choice on arms, you can do whatever feels intuitive and comforting with your arms. And then from here, so heels are against the wall. And our last couple practices have been the stability at 12% effort. Here, I'd like you to press your heels up, very gently engage, make sure your knees are unlocked, slightly bent, and then squeeze your phantom block at like 3% effort. Press your heels up at 3% effort. So like how little can you add? Most of this practice has been pretty obvious, pretty young. So now before we go into, as we're prepping for final relaxation, we can make these efforts more and more subtle. And even at 3% effort, I hope you find that that provides this sense of cohesion, continuity, and support. So be curious, you can play with it a little. Sometimes I like go up to 100% for a breath and then back it off. So you can explore your percentages. As you relax your head, relax the canopy of your lungs. And another 30 seconds here. All right. Great. So you can bend your knees, place your feet on the floor. If you have a block underneath you, you can lift your hips. Block slides out from underneath. You lower down, roll to one side, and let's prep for a shavasana. So we've been pressing our heels into the floor, into the wall, and this whole practice. So on this shavasana, feet are, as in all shavasanas, feet should just be free to relax. So not up against the wall or anything like that. Free to relax down so there's no impetus to want to engage. We are cooling down if you want to throw a blanket on. We'll be here just like 2 or 3 minutes before we come up to seated. And so we did a lot of good, strong work with our legs, our hips during this practice. Acknowledge it, acknowledge the sort of strength building capacity of your legs, your feet. And now that you're very familiar with the stability, enjoy the good space in your legs, feet, and hips as they relax. And really feel the weight of your bones. Feel your bones drop toward the floor. Soften down, soften in, and enjoy the good space you've created. Okay. Very good. So from here, start taking some deeper inhales and exhales. Breathe into your belly, breathe into the canopy of your lungs. Guide a breath through your hips, down your legs like you're breathing into your feet. Guide a breath through your shoulders, down your arms into your palms. And then guide a breath into your brain, dust off your brain. And exhale down your face. Great, and then from here, please draw one knee into your chest, give your knee a good hug, and sweep a breath across your low back. And switch your legs, other knee draws in. Give your knee a good hug, sweep a breath across your low back. And then both knees come in. Take an inhale here. And exhale from there, roll over to one side. Pause on your side and notice how it feels to move again after a brief period of stillness. Okay, and then from here, let's come up to a comfortable cross-legged position or otherwise. And so we've worked with stability, we've worked with cultivating good space. Notice the mixture of the two in your seated posture here. Feel the weight of your legs, weight of your hips. So feel that anchoring of your hips as the front side of your spine brightens up, lungs are light. A gentle lift through the back of your skull. All right. Very good. So thank you so much for practicing with me. Stay well.